Destination Medicine is a collaborative initiative of regional training hubs. With first-hand lessons learned from those who have gone before, this podcast is designed to assist and inspire anyone interested in pursuing a medical career in rural and regional Australia. Welcome to Destination Medicine. I'm Peter Letts. Born in Chile, raised in Australia and with Polynesian heritage from Easter Island, Dr. Gabe Sanchez's journey into medicine has taken plenty of unexpected turns. After studying pharmacy and training in general surgery, he made the courageous decision to leave it behind in favour of psychiatry. Today, Gabe is a psychiatry registrar at Wagga Base Hospital, where he's combining clinical practice with teaching, mentoring and helping strengthen mental health services across regional New South Wales, all while raising a young family in the community he now calls home. Nicole Goodman began by asking Gabe about his remarkably diverse pathway into medicine and where that journey first began.
I started with a Bachelor of Medical Science in Sydney. Then I went on to do a Masters of Pharmacy for 2 years, and then I became a pharmacist. During that time, I applied for medical school, got into medicine at the University of Notre Dame in Sydney as a postgraduate, and during my studies, I made myself to Wagga Wagga, and I remain in Wagga Wagga now, 7 years after graduation.
You're studying psychiatry now, but you got there via general surgery, so that was a switch as well. Why? Why the switch?
Lots of reasons. I'll be honest with you, when I was in medical school, what I wanted to do was general surgery. That was something that I was passionate about. And so after doing my internship and residency, I embarked on a journey of trying to get into surgical training. And I did 2 years as a general surgery registrar, 1 year in Wagga and 1 year in Sydney. But it was through that time that I decided that this might not be for me. So my wife at the time was also trying to get into surgery. We were living very busy lives. We were situated about 2 hours away from each other. I was seeing her on average once every 2 to 3 weeks. So it was really hard to juggle that. And I found that I wasn't getting the time for myself. I exercise regularly. I'm quite a social person. I like to be out and about with friends and explore hobbies and do things. And I was getting less of that with this type of work. On top of this, we became pregnant. And I was seeing my wife once every 2 to 3 weeks while she was pregnant. And I thought, wow, this is only going to get busier. And when we have a child, this is going to be an issue. So I need to find something that will allow me to be a more present father, a more present husband, and allow me to be more of myself, the things that I do outside of work. So that led me away from surgery. And then I thought, what should I be doing now? So I had a bit of a career crisis. But at the time, coincidentally, I was reading a lot of child and adolescent psychiatry topics to prepare myself to becoming a father. And that was fascinating, and I found that area very interesting. I looked around myself and I looked at the friends I had from medical school, and almost all of them were psychiatry registrars. And I thought, why is that? And that's really interesting. Why are my friends all doing similar things? There must be something I have in common with them. And as I explored that more, I thought, you know what? This sounds like a good idea. This sounds like something I could be passionate about. Yeah. So I looked at my networks, and I was put into contact with 3 separate people who went from surgery to psychiatry. I hadn't met them before, but I was able to call them on the phone. And we had long conversations, and I thought, I'm not alone in this transition. So that also helped me push me towards psychiatry.
Wow, what a story. Very much a family first and lifestyle decision. Fascinating journey you've taken. Practically though, what did that transition look like from general surgery to psychiatry?
So what I did is in 2023, I had a 1-year contract in Sydney for general surgery. Well, it was actually 6 months of general surgery and 6 months of cardiothoracic surgery. In the middle of that, I had already made my decision to leave. But I thought I need to finish my contract. It's something I signed. So I persisted for another 6 months. The year after, 2024, my son was born in January. I got 4 to 5 months of parental leave. And so I was in no man's land with respects to career. I was really finished with surgery, on parental leave. And then I decided to apply for a 6-month unaccredited psychiatry position in Wagga to see if I liked it. and to see if that was really what I wanted to do. And in that time, I applied for the psychiatry program and got in.
It obviously required another application process, a set of challenges that come up in that respect. Tell us a bit about that.
It was actually a breath of fresh air, to be honest, because in applying for surgery, I had done so much to get the points. I presented at international conferences. I had all my 9 to 10 referees. There was so much to do. And then compare that to getting into psychiatry. What I needed to do was present a 500-word statement as to why I wanted to get into psychiatry. I needed to provide 3 referees, which ideally there would be at least 1 psychiatrist. But I wasn't able to include that. And they were all surgeons as referees. And number 3, I needed to present the CV. And a combination of those 3 things determined whether I got an interview. And I did get the interview, and it was a panel that were interviewing me. So in comparison to what I had done previously, it was easier.
A walk in the park, comparatively.
Comparatively. I mean, the interview still requires preparation.
Of course, yeah.
And it would be a different ball game today where the competition to get into psychiatry is ramping up.
Well, on that point, surgery and psychiatry are such different specialties. But the time that you invested in surgery can't obviously have been lost. How does your surgical experience still play a role in the work you're doing now, do you think?
Yeah, I think when you look at it on a surface level, a lot of people, including myself at first, were thinking, how are you going to go from one to the other? I mean, what skills do you really have to translate into psychiatry? But when you think about it on a deeper level, there are a few things. So number 1 is I have experience with seeing the unwell patient. I have seen some very unwell patients, and our consumers in psychiatry are at a higher risk of becoming unwell for a multitude of reasons. And when they're in the acute adult unit, for example, it's very important to have that ability to detect an unwell patient before it becomes a real issue. So that is something that I'm grateful for. And also being able to organize my time efficiently, to have a very structured day. That was something that I definitely needed in surgery, and it's helped a lot with psychiatry as well. Those are 2 things that I feel that translate the best from surgery to psychiatry.
Well, Gabe, you're based in Wagga Wagga. Why did you choose Wagga? And what's your experience been like working and living in this wonderful part of Australia?
Oh, I am so grateful to have found Wagga, to be honest, because, well, I'll start off by saying where my father's from in Easter Island. I have spent a few years there throughout my life, and it is a community of 7,000 people, and the closest inhabited land is a 5-hour plane ride away. So we're talking remote, small community. So I had that in my background. When I was a pharmacist, I lived in Lismore for a year to do my pharmacy internship. And I thought, yes, this is what I want, because I grew up for a lot of my life in Sydney. And so when I became a doctor, I thought I want something away from Sydney. And I ended up in Wagga through medical school. I just find that the medical community here is strong. There's really a sense of community here. Your friends at work become your friends outside. That's not for everybody, but it definitely works for me. And there's so many other lifestyle factors. For example, I drive to work, it takes me 7 minutes. Barely any traffic. When I find parking, it's easy to find parking outside the hospital. I don't have to pay for that. The time that I get back just in the commute, I could throw in a gym session every day compared to Sydney. I'm in a nice place of Wagga where we have a lot of young families coming to this area. I've made a lot of friends. We have barbecues at each other's houses. We all have children around the same age. I think that's really fulfilling and fruitful. And, you save money on cost of living as well. Like, the mortgage repayments are smaller. You're saving on petrol. There are many reasons why I love living here. And back to collegiality, there's more of an opportunity for junior doctors and registrars to get involved in the local universities, to get involved in education, in providing awareness and really being part of this medical community. So you do get to get involved outside of work in other things.
Tell us a bit more about what you do collegiately.
So this area is something I'm very passionate about. It took me by surprise when I first started teaching how much I would actually enjoy it. But it's no surprise. I mean, my father's a teacher. My grandmother's a teacher, his mother. My mother-in-law is a teacher. My brother-in-law is a teacher. So it has been around me for some time. And so I started off by teaching at the University of Notre Dame, doing teaching at UNSW as well. First, I started teaching surgery when I was doing that. Now I'm teaching psychiatry at these universities. That's the formal teaching that I do. The other type of teaching, which has been really exciting, is that every month we've decided that we would have some medical students and junior medical officers come to our house here in Wagga, and we would provide a monthly psychiatry education session. I've gathered a couple of other psychiatry registrars that help me with this. We shout everybody pizzas. It's an informal setting. It's BYO drinks. And we teach psychiatry. And it's been great because it allows medical students to mingle with JMOs, JMOs to mingle with registrars. Everybody's getting to know each other. Once everyone's in the workforce, it becomes easier for them socially to work together. And this is all centered around psychiatry education. I'm now at the stage of opening up a Zoom link and getting other regional and rural areas involved. And we've just received a grant from the College of Psychiatry to fund this session, pretty much to shout the pizzas and get the annual subscription to Zoom in order to expand this throughout the state. So that's been really exciting. Another project we've been working on is a colleague and I have just started a small startup business. We've got an app that we've developed to help with one of the psychiatry examinations. So we're releasing that next week. It's one of its kind AI-generated app, and that's really exciting to see where that goes as well. I'm also the rural lead for the New South Wales Association of Psychiatry Trainees, and that's been great. So we've been meeting monthly, and I'm trying to see what I can do to do as much as I can do for rural New South Wales in the field of psychiatry.
I want to talk a little bit about family because it is a driving force for you. And I'm wondering, when you were deciding where to train initially and through your significant pathway transitions, all of that would have involved a lot of discussion and planning with your wife, her career and lifestyle goals. How did all of that kind of play out? Tell us a bit about the importance that played in your decision making.
Yeah, of course. We met in Wagga. So we were medical students in Wagga. So the great thing about that is we had already made the decision that we wanted to leave Metro and that we wanted to do something rural. So we've never had to argue about, I want to stay in Wagga, you want to go Metro. There's never been that, which is great. But that brought its problems as well because we wanted to stay in Wagga and live in a regional area. And at the time we were both trying to get into surgery, we thought, hold on a minute, how is that going to work? It's all based off 6-month rotations where you're moving around the state every 6 months. I mean, what are the chances that we even live in the same city? And once we had our first child, we thought, what's no longer about our relationship? How unfair would this be on a child to live with one parent for 6 months and then live with another parent for 6 months? We just can't do this. And at the time I was reading a lot about child and adolescent psychiatry and I thought, this might be detrimental to our kids. So I decided to pull the pin and say, I'm doing something else. I'm going to do something that I love and that I can do in Wagga. She was still wanting to do orthopedics, but it wasn't too long after where she left surgery as well and said, I agree with you. I want to do something. So she's doing emergency medicine at the moment. And we're both able to do that in Wagga. And I thought, great, we're finally living where we want to live, having a family and still being doctors and still feeling fulfilled about the things that we do. So it did take a bit of 2 massive decisions on our behalf, both of us leaving something we were passionate about. But we found a renewed passion in other things.
You've spoken a lot about the positives and the wonderful opportunities in Wagga Wagga. Tell us about some of the difficulties or challenges in training in rural psychiatry.
I think as most people would agree, staff shortage is an issue in regional and rural areas. So that impacts the day-to-day of working at Wagga Base. We're constantly short-staffed. We rely a lot on locums. That means that there's less continuity of care for our patients. People are away, you have to cover, part of someone else's patient load. So that becomes stressful and it wears people down over time. So really the solution to that is retainment. And so that's one issue. Another issue is although you can do your entire psych training in Wagga, there are some subspecialties that you cannot entirely do in Wagga towards the end of the training. I have an interest in perinatal psychiatry. To do that, I would have to do advanced training in CL Psych or child and adolescent mental health. So in order to fulfill that criteria, I'll need to move to Sydney for some time towards the end of my training. And once that's done, come back to Wagga and provide that experience and those skills to the community. And the third thing would be mentorship. I do have a couple of mentors here in Wagga, but I feel like compared to my metro counterparts, I've had to really push to get mentors around other places. So I've been going to a lot of conferences, I've been making lots of calls, trying to seek that mentorship, which may have been easier in a metro area with more hospitals, more departments, more opportunity to mingle with other people.
I know that you've spent some time studying in Sydney and you've just mentioned some of the benefits that might have been there from a mentor perspective. Is there anything else you feel you've perhaps missed out on by not having trained in a metro region and choosing rural instead?
Other than what I've just stated, the only thing that really comes to mind is it would be ideal to have my mother and my wife's mother closer. You know, they live in Sydney, we live in Wagga. It would be nice to be closer to them. But overall, I definitely think the positives outweigh the negatives when we look at everything together.
For sure. Gabe, you've spoken a little bit about your background as a Polynesian Australian. How does that influence the work you do?
Well, the Polynesian population is increasing here in Australia, and it's always a delight to have consumers, patients, and even colleagues of a Polynesian background. I think having consumers in psychiatry of that background, I always come away learning something more about my culture. And so part of that therapeutic alliance has a lot to do with us talking about our culture and delving a little bit deeper into the spiritual aspects of things, which isn't always acknowledged in Western medicine. So being a bit open-minded about these cultures, and they view the world in a more holistic spiritual sense, and it helps me to communicate with my Polynesian culture. You know, I'm still learning about my own culture. You know, I've been detached from it for a while. I do come back to my community every couple of years. So I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress, but it's great when I do get the opportunity to mingle with my community. And it helps me to understand other adjacent communities like the Indigenous community and people that come from places that have been colonized, and you know, the potential mistrust of institutions and establishments, and having more empathy towards how they see the world from that point of view. It's helped me a lot.
Mm. What would you say to someone considering quite a significant career change in the way that you've had?
Look, I would say that we don't have much time on this earth, and you really need to look at what makes you feel full. And, you know, for me, that was being more present around my family, playing a significant role in the community, and being able to do the things outside of work that fulfilled me. And so having that as the primary, and then asking the question, how can I transform my career to be able to achieve those goals? And I would say that was my approach. And if you find yourself in a similar situation, it's never too late to make a change. And most importantly, you're not alone. This is not the first time anyone's done this. Use your networks to try and communicate with others who have done it before. Don't be afraid to give them a call. I'm sure they'd be very happy to talk to you about the transition. I found that passion somewhere else. And so I'm very grateful to have made the transition. In the end, I found the thing that keeps me going.
What a fabulous, fabulous story, and a great way to illustrate passion and that you've made the right move. As we finish, Gabe, what does the future look like for you and for your family? Where do you see yourself in, say, 5 years' time, and what are you doing?
Well, in 5 years' time, I'd like to be in the same home that we're in now in Wagga. I would like to have finished my psychiatry training and maybe have a mix between public, private and teaching with something in perinatal psychiatry as well. We may have a third child. We're talking about having a third child. By 5 years, that might be a reality. So yeah, I see myself settling into being an early career consultant psychiatrist. My wife will likely still be in the ED training program because she's doing it part-time. I want to have built a strong and solid psychiatry community here. I would like in 5 years for Wagga to have more permanent registrars and more permanent psychiatry consultants. I'd like to keep exercising the way I am, probably improve my diet. And yeah, just being able to have some time to travel every year and to catch up with friends all around the country.
Staying rural, staying in Wagga?
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely the long-term goal, to stay here.
Dr. Gabe Sanchez, Stage 2 Psychiatry trainee at Wagga Base Hospital in New South Wales. This is Destination Medicine. Thanks for listening. Regional training hubs are supported by funding from the Australian Government under the Rural Health Multidisciplinary Training Program.